Welcome to the Star Trek Critic. Today's episode is the Season 3 opener, Evolution. As you can see, they have new opening credits. Our own solar system got voted out. Aww. And they got new uniforms. The scoring is the same, starting with 100 points, then take away 1 point for each error, and I make totally annoying commentary all the way through. Look close. Did you ever notice you can see somebody walking by in the conference room? As you can see, this says Stand By. This episode aired in 1989 and is foreshadowing the future of what happens when you are in the standby line at Disneyland. The plot of this show: Wesley's school project escapes and eats the computer. The first point is lost since those doors open way too soon. Captain Picard is recording this, but he's in his office. He can't see any of this at all. Strangely, this is one of the few times they are actually doing their mission and not diverted away for some reason. I think that's a first. Wesley sits down and Riker immediately wants to know their position. He doesn't tolerate oversleepers at all, does he? Keep your fingers crossed that 300 years in the future, Old Faithful is still predictable. Until then, I can't take a point for his comment. With the new uniforms comes a massive amount of new Picard maneuvers. This is number 1. Shout out to the new Shuttle Bay Tower set. Did anyone notice the egg looks a lot like an exocomp? Or is it this container on its side? I know, this is only a 46-minute show, but not enough time was recorded between when the nanites got out and this fiasco, so minus 1 point. It is like, that's right, I have to bounce around. And the show starts with the Enterprise plunging into total destruction. Yes! They're heading backwards into the cloud, then Picard says, reverse impulse engines. Wouldn't they go backwards even faster? So minus 1 point. Today, we welcome back Gates McFadden, who strangely got fired for calling the show sexist, which in turn the producer said, that's where the money is. So she said, okay, as long as I don't have to have sex with a ghost, or a Trill, or Riker, or Deanna, I'm good. And she came back. Beverly says, I love you. Wesley says, I know. Then Wesley says he was at Starfleet Medical for a year. I think he read the wrong script. Now Wesley says his mother is a formidable woman. That's why she got fired, isn't it? And now Beverly says she's trying to get into Starfleet Academy. Either I'm watching it while drunk or something is wrong with the captioning. 1 point is lost here. The Enterprise should have some type of ROTC program on the ship with kids, but they don't, and Wesley is just too smart for the BS they put him through. He should be able to go to that school and enter the academy as a junior. Does the narrator really know what he's talking about? Beverly says, sure he does. So I'm right. Another point lost for opening credits 6 minutes into the show. I think this is the only time it's referred to as a food slot. But the computer recognizes the term, however doesn't realize it's running. Stubbs, a man, mentions he's not sure if he'd want his mother on the ship, so Beverly, a woman, goes to another man for advice. How sexist can you get on her first show back? Beverly says, I love you. Picard says, I know. Beverly wants to know if Wesley has been fooling around, since Wesley wouldn't tell her about what he did with Celia, or Guinan, or Worf. This is Picard maneuver number 2. Dr. Stubbs compares himself to Ryan Howard.
People keep calling me a wonderkind.
Or he could be comparing himself to Starfleet's greatest scientist and then says, Wesley, you're next in line to be a wonderkind. Look closely, they spent a lot of money to add that control tower to the shuttle bay, but they hardly ever use it. The ship is recording a ghost Borg vessel, and all the shields are out, but the doors still work. That's odd. The bridge crew decides to relieve the tension by playing chess. Data says, nope. When did he learn that word? Geordi says, well, maybe I should go back to engineering where I'm supposed to be. 1 point lost here since the stars aren't moving and there's no visible cloud that they're crashing into. 1 point is lost here. Data says there hasn't been a system failure in 79 years. Did he actually forget the computer virus last year? Poor Deanna has the job of escorting around a high-ranking horse's ass. Riker and Picard maneuvers numbers 3 and 4. Look closely, Stubbs and Deanna are sitting right across from each other at the table. Stubbs tries to play the science card by saying, if this experiment goes bad, Captain Picard, it is all your fault and you'll lose your command. Picard pulls the government card and says, the Enterprise is paid for by taxpayer money and if we explode it's a real political gooey mess. Not only will I be dead, but I'll have to go through another court-martial. Picard then uses a baseball metaphor and tells Dr. Stubbs, "We have front row seats for your experiment." Dr. Stubbs reveals he's just like his Cylon brother Cavil.
And feel the solar wind of a supernova flowing over me.
And then Picard says, "Nah, I think we'll all pass on that one." Deanna tries to do her job. Of course, Stubbs says to mind her own business. But he's talking to her at an angle when he's actually sitting right across from her, so -1 point. This is a really toned down way of Deanna saying Stubbs is desperate to be successful right now. Picard is thinking, well, in that case, we'll just leave him in a shuttlecraft and get the hell out of here. A crewman says, "I number 1. Geordi does Picard maneuver number 5. It's time to celebrate. Geordi says, "Incredible! It looks like a child genius fell asleep and his school project got out and is now eating our computer core." Wesley's like, "How did you figure me out?" And Geordi says, "It's easy, I read the script." No moving stars, so -1 point. This is a plot device, so 1 point is lost here. Wesley saw the nanites in the computer core, so he's smart enough to set traps in the computer core, not 10 forward. It's just an excuse for Wesley to talk to Guinan. Guinan's thinking, rats, now I have to go back to work. Wesley says, "I love you." Guinan says, "I know." Nanites are little tiny robots. And he stole them from his own mother's medical cabinet. No wonder he won't talk to her. This has probably happened before, so he just needs to grow a pair and ask for help. And it turns out 2 nanites breed faster than rabbits. Imagine when they're inside your body. 1 point is lost here. This project couldn't possibly be for a high school class. A Starfleet science class, yes, but you don't really know. Now he has to deal with his nosy mother. He's never going to have girls over again, will he? I think this would be disappointing to a child genius for always getting an A. Does Guinan know Frankenstein is fiction? This may be the last captain's log, so he should really have the stardate, so -1 point. The shuttle bay operator says I number 2. 1 point is lost for an unescorted civilian having access to the bridge. The ship goes haywire. Picard says let's just get out of here, but Geordi does not follow the teachings of Yoda. -1 point for Geordi being on the bridge and not engineering where he should be. That's what she said. And she said this too, didn't she? Is this the first time that baseball is mentioned in Star Trek? In a few years, you're going to see a lot of this holographic baseball. But Stubbs plays the ball games all in his head. Either he is an expert at baseball statistics, I cannot say statistics, or there is nothing else in his head. I think a little bit of both. Stubbs should have a staff with him, so I'm going to take a point. The reuniting Crushers have a bonding moment. Beverly says, "I love you." Wesley says, "I know." Aww. Wesley may be a child genius, but he also puts way too much on his plate and gives himself too much responsibility. This working himself to death is probably one of the reasons why he decided to leave Starfleet. Nanites are micro-robots supposed to go into humans to repair damage, but if they can eat a computer core, they could probably eat a human from the inside out as well. Stubbs says, "How can a machine evolve?" And Data says, "I'm sitting right over here, you dumbass." Dr. Crusher takes responsibility. It's her fault her son got into her nanites. 1 point is lost because nobody gives poor Wesley credit for creating a new life form. Dr. Stubbs says, "Flush them out the airlock," while Beverly says, "We just created a life form similar to a microscopic version of the Borg." Dr. Stubbs says, "That's why you tossed them out the airlock." Now he says a virus is a life form, but in today's science, a virus is not alive. Captain Picard says we're going to try to take care of them the humane mousetrap style. If not, we're going to flush them out the airlock. To attract a bigger female audience, they give you a great view of Wesley's butt. Data says, "I love you." Stubbs says, "I know." 1 point is lost for a civilian getting his hands on a phaser. That's a lack of security. Riker practices the thinker pose. He's thinking, why did they show Wesley's butt but not mine? Card accuses Riker of farting. Riker says no, it was the second baseman. 1 point is lost for no emergency masks at bridge positions you can't abandon. And another point lost since they left no acting captain. Geordi says, "I number 3. Just like in the original Star Trek, it's the high-ranking guest star that almost gets them all killed. Picard says, "I'm gonna throw you out the airlock." Stubbs says, "I'm a civilian, you can't do anything to me." Picard says, "You just watch me," while Data says, "You killed my cousins." Worf says Data's brother almost got us killed, so let's get rid of his cousins too. Picard says he's lost. Data says, have you tried Hare Krishna? Jean-Luc leans over by Data to fart and then performs the Picard maneuver, number 6. Deanna enters the room without asking. Deanna wants to get it on with the guest star like Riker always gets to, but it doesn't go over well. In reality, the purpose of this scene is to show off their new fish tank in the guest quarters. Someone put beautiful flowers in his quarters to hide the stench of his smelly feet. This was a real baseball game, and it is possible for someone who eats and sleeps baseball to memorize a game like this. Of course, it gives the nanites extra distraction time to attack him. Picard and Stubbs recreate their favorite scene from Star Trek VI.
Don't let it end this way.
Although the lines are a little bit different.
You must protect me. Kill them.
Picard decided they gave it their best shot, but the nanites have to go. Aww. Data makes contact at the last second. Look closely, there are no stars in the ceiling window. They speak binary. Does that mean humans are all non-binary? 1 point lost for stars and 1 point for Deanna, both magically appearing out of nowhere. -1 point for a single set of doors on the fake turbolift. Now the Doctor is here, but why no Wesley? He was the one that created them. That's not fair. Data wants to become one with the nanites. And now they lost control of the most successful android in the galaxy. Microscopic creatures always picture humans the same way.
Ugly, giant, bags of mostly water.
And when did they nearly kill a crew member? Was that in one of the deleted scenes? The nanites and Stubbs have it out. Lucky for Stubbs, they forgive him, since Data's strength would be able to rip him to shreds. Then Worf would have to vaporize Data. That would have been a great alternate ending, wouldn't it? Stubbs says, I love you. The nanites say, we know. Another point lost for a supplemental captain's log right before an explosion. He should really put the star dates in his captain's logs. The planet Cavis Alpha 4 will be the new home of the nanites, but they never return to check on their progress. Look what happened the last time. Data now has no more brain. The egg is released. Look closely, this is a reflection on the glass in the window, but this reflection shouldn't be there, so -1 point. The stellar matter explodes, and this is Stubbs' reaction.
Dorothy's flying!
Beverly and Guinan have a bonding moment while they watch Wesley try to get into the pants of a girl by bragging that he created an entirely new species that almost got them all killed, and he didn't get any credit for it, just an A like he always does. And Beverly gets to end her first show back on a funny note. Scott Grimes from the Orville had a deleted scene in this episode. Randall Patrick was on MASH and After MASH and 50 other screen credits. And Ken Jenkins has 100 screen credits, including Wise Guy, Homefront, and most notably, Scrubs. The nanites played themselves. Evolution, a great third season opener where Wesley still doesn't get credit for being a genius, gets a score of 76. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.